Hey everyone, hope everybody can hear me. Yard Stream's been acting up a little bit in the beginning and with their interaction with YouTube. So the first couple of minutes here, we're going to be ironing some stuff out. That's just the way YouTube is. It doesn't like to share its stuff with its platform with other software that broadcasts stuff a little bit better. Okay, so while I'm looking here, I'm hoping to see it saying, hey, you're live, but it says I'm live here. I'm waiting for the notification from YouTube to pop up saying that. And so today, what we are going to be talking about is preparedness on Survival Sunday here, and Sunday Survival, yeah, about what the scriptures say about getting prepared. And so anybody out there, go ahead, make a comment, say hello, so I know I got people watching me, and we'll see what we can get going here. And let me, there we go. Now live. All right, and I need to do this, pop this up here, and I move this over to the side. There we go. All right. Okay. All right. So just so you know, when I look over here to the side here, I got two monitors. This monitor over here has all the good working comments on it here. And so we got what makes grass go greener? How you doing? Grandma Moses, how you doing? So we're let me get my list up here, and we're going to be talking about, if I get my Word document back up here, there we go. All right, so a lot of people, you'll think, there's not much in the scriptures at all about getting prepared, about any type of preparedness, really, but there are some really, really cool ones in there. But the Lord prepares things all the time, and it says so. They prepared, preparing, things. The Lord had Noah prepare an ark. Hello, that's probably the biggest thing of preparedness right there, is preparing an ark. So, but and that's the Old Testament. And throughout the Old Testament, talking about preparing the way, preparing everything for the Lord. And so that's one of the things that we need to remember here. Let me pull this over here so I'm not having to look off to the side. I can cover up my own face here on the live stream. I can put my notes up here. But it's really interesting in what, put this up here. Where's I lost my other page here. Let me bring it up here. There we go. And then this one here. And then there. Yeah, I can put that over there like that. Okay. So in Isaiah, talks about, prepare the way, and take away the stumbling blocks out of the way of my people. Constantly, the Lord's telling people, the old people of the Old Testament, to prepare, and then in the New Testament, He refers to it quite often of getting prepared for the things to come. And He told His apostles quite a bit to be prepared for His return. And so what all do we need to do to prepare? Well, one thing is to, looking at it from the scriptures, we need to follow the commandments. Now, I'm not going to try to convince anybody to join my particular religion, and I expect you not to try to get anybody else to join your particular religion here. We just need to come together and talk things open. So I want to see things in there. Yes, Grandma Moses, John the Baptist prepared. The Lord prepared him out in the wilderness for, eating the locust and honey for quite a few years. So he was prepared for that. Looking back at Moses, when he was chased out of Egypt was prepared. The Lord prepared him in the desert for however long it took him to travel through the desert till he got to, I'm having a brain fart here, please forgive me. He got to the oasis where his future father-in-law Jethro, his daughters were tending the sheep. And while he was living with Jethro, the Lord prepared him and had Jethro teach him and all that, all the other things he went through before he went up to the burning bush. Then, after Moses led the people out of Egypt, they wandered for 40 years as the Lord prepared them to come into the promised land. So there is a lot of preparing going on in the Old Testament, and then also again in the New Testament. You know, Christ didn't begin his ministry until he was, 33 years old? But all the time beforehand, he was preparing, he was learning. So, now, I don't know if any of you out there know about Streamyard and how it works. Let me pull this up over here first. Back here. I need to get the link here. I would love sent. No, I don't know why I didn't go there. Crud. Okay, let me see if this will work here. I'm going to post the link here. Hopefully it all will work right. Hey Jay, how's it going? All right. If one of you want to come, or two of you would like to come up here and join me on the panel and express your knowledge and share your knowledge with everybody, I would appreciate that. But one of the things that I've always thought about when dealing with realizing the Bible, if you look at the history of the Bible, when was the Bible compiled? Does anybody know that? Well, I did a little research on that, and the Bible wasn't compiled. They started believing it was to compile it around 200 AD. So none of the apostles that wrote the New Testament had anything to do with the compiling of the New Testament. They wrote their books to the different branches of the church, either in Antioch or wherever. And that's how those letters they wrote to the branches, clarifying the teachings of Christ. As from those letters, the monks later on to compile them into what we have as the New Testament. And one of the interesting things to me, and of course it may not be interesting to anybody else, that if you're reading in the Bible, and there are several books that are referenced that are not there. I mean, Christ referenced the book of Jasher, okay? And he also, the epistle to the Laodiceans is mentioned in Corinthians 4:16, but where is it? We don't know. We don't know exactly what happened to it. There was another book called The Life of Adam and Eve, and it's referenced in Corinthians 11:14. And so there's a bunch of different things, different books that are referenced in the New Testament that are not there. The Assumption of Moses is listed in Jude 9, and in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 8 as well. So obviously there are certain books that are missing. And so there's other scripture out there that we would have a great deal greater knowledge if we had. But we have to realize that the Bible we have today was compiled throughout time. You know, the Old Testament was compiled from the Torah, and Jay, I'm gonna throw his comment up here real quick here. Yeah. And actually, that's true, because it was at the Council of Nicaea that a lot of the scriptures were voted on, what was going to go in, what wasn't. And then Constantine had input when he adopted and made Christianity the faith of the Roman Empire. So, yeah, there was some things that had political influence on it. So, but everyone says, you know, they point to Revelations saying, but it says, you know, Revelation says, do not add or take away from the word of this book. Well, when John wrote Revelations, he was talking about the book of Revelations, not the Bible, because the Bible didn't exist then. All they had were all these epistles, these letters going out to the different churches throughout the 7 churches throughout Asia. And if you want to take that as, you know, where it says not to add anything or take away from the word, then you got to go back to Deuteronomy 4, verse 2, where it says the same thing. Now, we're not going to throw away everything after Deuteronomy, are we? No. He's talking about the book of Deuteronomy. And just as John was talking about the book of Revelations. So there are other, you know, if you look at what books were kept out of the Bible, if you Google that, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of the twin, Thomas, Gospel of Enoch, or the Book of Enoch, the Book of James, the secret book of James, the Apocalypse of Paul, the letter of Paul to Philip, Apocalypse of Peter, the Gospel to the Egyptians. Those were books that were taken out by Constantine and those he put in head of the church at the time. So there was a bit of political influence on that. But no, Jay, I'm not going to get you started on that. Anyways, there is a lot of other information about preparedness. Now, taking that into mind, there are certain Christian denominations take out certain chapters of, or certain books or chapters of the Bible, and you can go through from the Methodists to the Lutherans to the Episcopalians. Everyone doesn't use the same Bible, and I forget who it was, basically took out several chapters of one of the books of the New Testament and said, I don't believe this, so we're taking it out. Okay. Anyway, Lois, stop stirring up Jay. Anyways, there is another Christian religion out there that believes in modern revelation. And what's interesting on one of their take of preparedness, I'm just going to do the little quick quote here, if I find it here prepared. In their modern scripture, one of their favorite quotes is, if you are prepared, ye shall not fear. And that you may be prepared for things to come is from another one of their scriptures. And prepare yourselves by doing the things which I've commanded you. Now, I think those are three very good scriptures for everyone to consider about their lives. Think about it. If you're prepared for the Lord to come, are you going to be afraid? I don't think so. If you prepare yourselves by doing the things which the Lord's commanded, you're in the good way. Okay, we got the flat Earth thing going on the sideline here. Anyways, I'm going to say hi to some people. Hi, Brastard 7.62. Hey, Happy Prepper. Hi, Lois. Hi, Jay. Who else did I miss? Michael Ryan. Hey, Michael. Grandma Moses. Going back up here. Appalachian Mercantile. What makes the grass grow greener? Okay, I think I got everybody that's in the side chat. So I want to hear your opinions on what you think about the Bible saying to be prepared. I'm going to rattle some off here while you guys are typing in there. Exodus 15:2, I will prepare him an habitation. That prepareth his heart to see God is 2 Corinthians 30:19. 2 Corinthians 35:6 is prepare your brethren. Hey, we're supposed to prepare each other and help each other. Right there. Ezra had to prepare his heart to seek the law. Ezra 7:10. And Psalms 10:17, thou wilt prepare thy heart. Hey, Dangerous Freedom. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Okay, Isaiah 40, verse 3. Matthew 3, verse 3. Mark 1, verse 3. Luke 3, verse 4. All right, so prepare to meet thy God, O Israel. Amos 4:12. There's a lot of references in the Old Testament and the New Testament about preparing. Okay, yeah, Jay made a good reference here. Yeah. Now, your fear should not be fear of God. I believe personally that any fear you have is fear of not following him properly, fear of not pleasing the Lord. But remember, if you're fearing of failing the Lord, he has said that for us to take his yoke upon us and he'll help us. So long as we're trying and we ask for help, the Lord will help us do what we're supposed to do. It's not just, we have to do all our stuff on our own to do what he says. He's going to help us. He will strengthen us. He will give us support in ways we can't imagine. It could just be a friendly word of someone coming up and that was inspired to say something to us, positive. It could be an inspiration in saying prayers that you might get that still small voice speaking to you that he is still there and that he loves you. There is so much that we can do with the Lord's help, so long as we don't let our minds overrule our hearts. All righty here. So, but I haven't touched on probably the biggest parable of preparedness yet. Can anybody guess? I want to put it in the comment if you can guess what it is. Jesus spoke a parable of preparedness. It is quoted quite often in my church. And so I would like to see how many of you can remember that parable and mention it in a side chat here. All right. And while you're doing that, I'm going to get a drink of water, because even though it's wintertime, we should remember to hydrate. One of the things, other things to do while we're preparing for everything. There it is. Michael Ryan got it. Was the first one to get it. The 10 virgins, where there were 10 virgins waiting the bridegroom, and 5 of them made sure they had brought extra oil with them, and the other 5 didn't. And as the bridegroom tarried, the lamps went out, and the 5 that had the oil were refilling theirs, and the other 5, didn't have any. Asked the others for theirs, and they said, "No, we give you of ours. We will not have enough to last until the bridegroom comes. Go ye therefore and purchase." And while the 5 went to purchase, the bridegroom came. The 5 that were there and that were properly prepared entered in with him into the feast. And when the other 5 showed up, the bridegroom says, "I know thee not." So, very good reason to prepare. And it's not just preparing for the physical, but the spiritual as well. Now, I'm not sure if I should have found that one beforehand. There is another quote from that other religion I was talking about that has some believes in modern scriptures, of where, quoting the Lord, where the Lord says, "I have not given any commandment that was physical, for all commandments are physical and spiritual." Think about that. Everything the Lord has ever commanded has to do not only just the spiritual, but also the physical earth, our spiritual well-being and our physical well-being. So I was hoping to have a couple of the people up here with me on the panel here, and I guess they got busy. I know one of them was out and about, and he couldn't make it today. He called and let me know he wasn't going to be able to make it. But so we really can do a lot if we follow the scriptures about getting prepared. There's another great one from the Old Testament, which most people don't think about. Joseph, coat of many colors. He was sold by his brethren into slavery, taken into Egypt. During his time in prison there, he remained faithful. He was elevated and soon was second only to Pharaoh in Egypt, because of the Pharaoh's dream of the 7 fat cows coming out of the water and 7 lean cows coming up and devouring the fat cows, the 7 ears of corn, and the 7 withered ears of corn coming out and devouring the 7 plump ears of corn, and that. Well, that was the Lord's way of telling Pharaoh through Joseph, get prepared. There's going to be 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. That is probably a great one that most people forget about, is that, prepare your food storage. Now, modern days, everyone says, "Oh, we don't have to worry about that too much. We got farmers and everything else, and we got plenty of food all available." Yeah, right. What is the mechanism for getting the food planted on those big farms, harvested, packaged, shipped, delivered to the store where you can go purchase it? Well, They need fuel to run the tractors, the combines, the trucks, all to transport it there. We need, whether it's a coal-powered, gas-powered, nuclear-powered, we need some sort of power to power the power plants, fuel to power the flower plants, and it to basically to keep the produce fresh and refrigerated for us to have. Now, if we lose our fuel production, whether it's a natural disaster, man-made terrorist act, political maneuvering to subjugate those that are Christian and believe in following the Lord by certain political entities, which I refer to as the Democrats. Now, that I know some very, very, very religious and good Christian Democrats. I'm talking Democrats. Those up to make politics their life's blood and their life work, and they're not statesmen. They're not for the people. They're for themselves. So there are, the things of us losing our food supply can be, basically, someone says it's hanging by a thread. Our power infrastructure, the grid is not what it used to be. It is, Parable of the Fig Tree. Yep, there's another one. Thanks, Lois. There are a lot of breakdowns in the power grid. Who out there has not had a brownout or a power outage of some sort in the last 2 years? I know that if you're from California, you had it all. Hey, you had the power companies in the North PG&E and the South Cal Edison turning off the power because they had high winds and they didn't want the power lines blowing into each other, sparking and causing fires. So they shut off the power. Well, that left people with no power for their refrigerators, gas stations with no power to pump gas. Hospitals were running on backup power. Stores had lots of produce go bad because they didn't have power for it. They had a lot of spoiled frozen foods because after several days without power, the freezer sections at the store, which are open basically, they're not like a chest freezer, were all gone. Jay, put it up. Wait for an ice storm this winter. Hey, we've had a really weird winter so far. So, it could be a really, really funky winter here, and we could get a lot of ice storms taking out power lines. They could take out transmission lines, which takes out whole areas. You could have heavy snowfalls on a substation, transformer station, and they could get shorts across there. Hey, Dangerous Freedom. Hey, Inside Prepper. Prepper Insights. Getting tongue-tied here. Getting dyslexic. But, so there are a lot of things that we need to be prepared for. And remember, the Bible talked about rumors of wars and plagues and pestilence. Well, most your professional preppers, hey, Tinker's Wife, they say, especially if you watch the TV show Doomsday Preppers, you had the ones that were preparing for pandemics. You had those that are preparing for earthquakes. You had those that were preparing for economic collapse. You are those that are preparing for wars. You're those that are preparing for earthquakes, everything, tornadoes, floods. All right. Yeah. Hey, all that stuff was talked about in the New Testament. All the stuff must come to pass before Christ comes again. The Let's see. Who did I just see in there? Pop in there. Tinker's wife. Yeah, said hi. Okay. Dangerous freedom. I lived in Arizona for 2 years. In 1975, April 1st, actually March 31st, 65 degrees out, not a cloud in the sky. Went to bed, woke up April 1st, 3 feet of snow on the ground. Yeah, and now my cousins down in Phoenix, they had a bad ice storm one year, and they lost power in Phoenix in the fall. It wasn't even winter; it was the fall, and they had a bad ice storm. So it can happen anywhere. So yeah, there is. Yeah, things can happen anywhere in the country, especially now that the jet stream has started shifting. For all the years I was growing up, it came down a certain path. Well, it's moved. The jet stream has moved a bit east. Right now, where I'm at here in southeastern Idaho, 90% of the time, the wind is blowing from the south by southwest, heading to the northeast. In other words, it's blowing from me towards Yellowstone. And years ago, it used to blow because of the jet stream shift. The current was coming more southern. It was almost a easterly, southeasterly direction, and now it's north. So there's a lot of things going to change. If you're worried about weather, check with Uncle Al at Die Bullfrog 79. He's been tracking a lot of stuff, and people have been poking fun at him. And all of a sudden, that's like, oh, Uncle Al was right. We are getting weird weather here. Yeah, Uncle Al is crazy, like a fox. Like he says, he's a little bit weird, a little bit crazy, but yeah. Boom. All right, Lois, where are you at? What state? Don't have to tell me what city. Just know what state, so we know about where you're at there on it. But yeah, I had friends of mine that had a cabin up at Tahoma in California, up by Reno, Lake Tahoe, actually up by Lake Tahoe, and they went up there for a weekend and got snowed in for 2 weeks. Yeah, the snow. They had pictures of it. About 4 blocks from the house is the grocery store on the main highway there, just off the edge of the Lake Tahoe. The snow was piled up 15 feet high from the parking lot, trying to keep the parking lot clear. And they had a loader taking over and dumping it into Lake Tahoe. Hey, we have Will from Just in Time Prepping showed up here. He's just watching. Let's see what we got here. Is that part of the stream that brings? Yeah, that's part of the change in the jet stream causing that over there in Oregon. And every now and then we will get the arc, which is the big atmospheric river that comes from Hawaii to San Francisco, through Sacramento, and on up into Nevada. So they had it hit one time that was so bad that Governor Stanford of California back in the day, to get to his inauguration, had to take a rowboat across town, across Sacramento, to get to the state capitol to be sworn in. El Paso. All right, El Paso got -11 back in 2011. All right, very unusual. Where I used to live, no, that's no, Tyler. That's just the light up behind me here. Gives me kind of a heavenly glow. No, bad boy. When I was my house in California back, was that just after I got married? Anyways, my house was okay, but my parents' house, which was 3 blocks away, and they'd owned that house since 1960. We had a freeze there so bad it broke the water pipes for going from the street to the house in 3 different locations. And this happened so I got married in 89. So I think it's about 80, it might have been 90 or 91 when the freeze happened. And so 30 years they lived there and never had any problem with the water line. The worst part was it actually froze down to where the sewer line was and froze the sewer pipes. Didn't crack them, just froze the sewer as it was trying to flow away from the house. So, yeah. Hang on a second here. I got to take care of something here. There we go. All right. All righty. And yeah, so weather-wise, we get a lot of stuff. And you look at what's in the New Testament, the things that are supposed to happen. And now everyone's talking about World War III because Iran sent one of their generals into Iraq to cause problems with our embassy there and didn't realize, oh, wait a minute, Obama's no longer president, Trump's president, and Trump sent hundreds of soldiers in there and attack helicopters, and they killed him. And so a lot of people think, oh, no, we're going to have World War III now. Well, rumors of war. Come on, power off. Why is it not powering off? Hey, Southern Blessed Homestead. All right, so there is a lot of stuff that is talked about in the New Testament that we need to be prepared for, that a lot of preppers have been talking about. So, guys, come up in the side chat, give me some more examples here. I don't want to be the only one up here coming up with examples. You guys got to think for yourselves too. I'm just trying to help you here. Actually, Jay, when the sewer line started getting blocked up, we went out to the cleanouts and we poured boiling water down the cleanouts until it melted enough and we ran a snake hose down there and hooked up to the hot water heater and started shooting hot water directly against the frozen sections. But it took us 4 hours to get the sewer line cleared, and it took us 2 days to get the water line repaired and fixed back up. And we had access to backhoes, but it was having to dig around the everything. It was a long driveway. It was 130-foot driveway that the water line came down. Yeah, and here's the thing. Here's a point brought out, Jay. So I get, I've heard that Iraq's saying they want the United States troops out, and the embassy closed and out. Problem is, the ones in charge, right now, they're saying this: if we're gone, won't be there a month after we're gone. Yes, Will, just in time prepping. It is snowing here. We had a couple clear days, but it's snowing now, but it's supposed to be clear and sunny for the next 2 days. So it's weird. We're getting snow and then clear, snow and then clear. The trees don't know what to think around here right now. Yeah. All right, so let's get back to the other stuff here. Yeah, I'm checking the side chat for any other information here. Okay, so There are a lot of things, that, like I said, in the beginning here, there were a lot of things in the Bible talking about, not just the Bible, other scriptures and stuff about what to get prepared for. Old Testament, New Testament. Some religions believe in modern day revelation. Even they're talking about getting prepared, And so there is, in the one scripture, if you are prepared, you shall not fear. There is a lot of common sense in that. And so if we're prepared to meet the Lord, what do we have to worry about, really? If we die, hey, we're ready to go to the Lord. But we don't want to die. We want to be able to take care of our families and help them. So, we need to be prepared for ourselves, for our families, and for our communities. One of my favorite books, and actually, do I have it up here? Give me a second. Hang on one second here. One of my favorite books is, I even got audiobooks for it. Turn it there. Jerry Ahern, get it right. There we go. Jerry Ahern, The Survival Series. Jerry Ahern was a very popular author back when I went to the police academy. He used to author articles for Guns and Ammo, hunting, Field and Stream hunting times and stuff like that. The main character in the books here, the survivalist, is John Thomas Roarke, and he's teaches people about survivals and stuff like that. He's a former doctor, and he was had picked up a sidekick along the way in the first book. Sidekick is Paul Rubenstein. He's a editor of gardening books and stuff like that. And John was explaining to Paul about the prepper mentality, the survivalist mentality. And he tells him, I'm a survivalist. I'm not one of those guys who goes out and get themselves killed. They're not survivalists. They're dead. But a survivalist survives so he can help his family to survive. He and his family survive to help their friends to survive. He, his family, and their friends survive to help the community survive. The community survives to help the country survive. And so that's the proper way to look at prepping, survivalism, self-reliantism, whatever you want to call it, is that it's not just for us to, quote, survive and have guns and go out and do everything. It's to make sure our families survive, make sure our community survives, to make sure our country survives. No, okay. Jay said that he's read some of those books. Yeah, there's like 38 books in the series, and there's we got to remember when we're preparing, we're not preparing just for ourselves. We're preparing for the bigger picture. And isn't that what Christ's part of his teachings is about? To love thy neighbor, to help the whole, not to be selfish. So guys, I would like some help here. Would anyone like to come up here on the panel as well? I can put the link out there and you can, come on up here. If you've used your Streamyard before, you'll come in right away. If you haven't, you'll need to take a minute or so as you're coming in to set up the stuff as it says to do there. But if anybody would like to come in, let me pull it down here again. And hopefully this is the link that works. Now, I would like to hear some other people's insight on what they believe the scriptures say about preparing. A little bit more than just a little quick flip in the side chat here. Looks like Will's going to go get his laptop. Okay, got another comment. I'm waiting for Streamyard to catch up with YouTube here. There we go. Yeah. All right. So I think that is a very good point there. Yeah. It's like my parents, after the 1971 Sylmar earthquake, they started getting food storage, and my mom would clip coupons and buy stuff that's on sale in the coupons, and she'd buy a little extra because so it would hold us through on that particular item until they came on sale again. And so for several years, she would only buy stuff that was on sale and buy more of it. And in the long run, she saved a lot of money and built up a decent food supply. And then they also went out and they bought the big number 10 cans of food. And it would, it was supposed to be for, the company advertised it as good for 5 years. That was in 1971. Around November is when my parents bought it all. I inherited all those cans. The only thing that has gone bad on us so far, and every now and then we crack a can open, and that was the flour. Because the wheat that's in the cans is still good, but when it was milled into flour, it even though they used nitrogen in there in the packing, it still picked up the flavor of the can and was a really nasty tasting flour. So we had to get rid of that. But everything else, the celery, the carrots, all that dehydrated stuff, still good. The banana, the sliced dehydrated bananas were still good. My favorite though was the apricots, still good. And that was 5 years ago when I cracked one of those cans open. So from 71 to 2000, well, it's now 2020. So that's about 2014 is when I opened that can up. So, and it was still good. So, the stuff my parents did, they passed on to me. And so it's helped me out and my wife and our kids. People from, let's see what we've got something here talking about here. Talking about the person we were talking about earlier. Because even though he was fighting one group, he was the same thing. He was the same type. He was a terrorist to others. Got a comment here. Make sure everybody sees it. Yeah. Yeah, my grandmother grew up on a farm up above Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, up in the northern panhandle. And she was one of 14. She had 14 brothers and sisters. And that's all, they canned everything they grew. They canned the meat from their cattle, besides salting the meat, dehydrating the meat, making jerky, and all the other fun stuff that you can do that most people don't know about how to do nowadays for preserving meat and stuff. They did all that stuff when she grew up, and she was born in 1899. And so she taught my mother and my aunt about canning. When I grew up canning blackberry jam and apricots and applesauce and stuff like that. So to me, it was just how I grew up. But we always had, jars of canned food in the house. And then after 1971, we'd moved from our home in Northern California. In 1966, we moved back down to Southern California. We're there for the earthquake. And the time we were down there, we didn't have the garden we had up in Northern California. And so, boom, there were farms out there. You could go out and harvest stuff from the farms, and they, pay, you buy, bushels of pears or whatever. And so my mom started doing that, going out and buying fresh produce like that and canning it again. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And that's one of the things we do with other foods, like you get the cereals and the pastas and the grains like that from the store. We toss it in the freezer for a couple weeks, kill all the bugs and stuff in it, and that way when we pull it out, it's we don't have to worry about opening up the box of Raisin Bran and see mealworms in there. Yeah. Yeah. However, a lot of people don't remember history. You ask a lot kids nowadays, teenagers and college students about the Great Depression. Oh, back in 2008? No, we're talking about back in 1929, 30, 35, 38, up until World War II. My grandmother talked about how they, when they were living up there in northern Idaho, they would go out and they made friends with the Indians on the reservation up there, and the Indians would take them out onto the reservation and allowed them to fish on the reservation with the Indians, so they're able to fish a lot more than they could off the reservation. And they taught them how they preserve their the fish from the river. So. Yeah, there are several of the. I think there's one, two, three, there's at least 5 of those, like the one in Norway. There's one here in the United States, and it's in the continental United States, and another one up in Alaska as well. Not very well publicized, and most of it's kind of don't talk about it. But yeah, there are a lot of seed vaults around the world. Hey, Modern Refugee, welcome here. Yeah, one of the things I'm doing here in Idaho, I'm planting 25 fruit trees, and then my wife is deciding what nut trees she wants me to plant as well. I've already planted one black walnut just because she likes to put walnuts in her fudge. So, yeah. But yeah, so and also you got blackberries. That's what we had in California at my mom's old place. We had 3 rows of blackberries, 75 feet long, and only I think 10 of the plants were thornless. I hate thorned blackberries. I love the Alali thornless. You go in there, you pick all the berries you want and not get stuck. Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. You stop teaching it, it's going to happen again. Yeah. Yeah, that's what my mom used to do. And she'd buy extra stuff that, when it was on sale, so that it would last until it came on sale again. Yeah, that's some other things, you guys. If the power goes out, how are you going to heat your homes? Fortunately, if the power goes out and I still got gas and natural gas and propane here, I can keep the furnace going until the natural gas shuts off, and then I can keep it going for another week after that. I have it a generator that I can power the furnace with, and I also have a battery bank and 2,100 watts of solar panels that I can power stuff with. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. The berries I'm planting here. I got an irrigation ditch that goes through the property. And so I got 2 days of irrigation rights. Well, we're planning on planting blackberries, raspberries. My wife plants tons of strawberries, and blueberries is the other thing she wants to plant. And right now, if you check on one of my videos about what my wife did to the front yard, the garden she put in there, yeah, strawberries everywhere. But yeah, and with like the berries and stuff, yeah, you can them, make great jam out of them. You don't have to can them; you can just freeze them and save them for later. That way, you don't have all that sugar. Oh, I got someone waving at me. Sorry, Will. Can't hear you. Check your mic. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. And so, if you look back in the New Testament and the Old Testament, all the food storage they did. What was the number one food talked about in the New Testament? And I'm not talking about the loaves and fishes. What was the Garden of Gethsemane? An olive orchard.
Olives.
Yep. Olives. I have never developed a taste for olives because the stuff my grandma and my parents got was the cheap stuff. And
green ones or black ones, or does it matter?
Black ones, and I just never developed a taste for it. But olive oil, ooh, I love cooking with olive oil, and so does my youngest son. Oh, olive oil is one of the things we love to cook with. And people, olive oil is very healthy for you, unlike some of the other oils. And
it keeps a long time too.
Yeah, and so yeah, there's a lot of. Oh, hang on. Let's listen.
Get all my stuff back together here.
Yeah.
I had some echo going on.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, we have probably about 2 dozen of the rubber gasket jars. We had some friends that had retired, and they were moving to Texas, and they didn't want to take all their canning stuff with them. And they gave us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 cases of wide mouth canning jars, and a whole bunch of lids and all the peripheral stuff that goes with it as well. Oh, that's something I never. All right. How many of you grow spices? Your rosemary, your thyme, and your other spices, and sage and stuff. Hey, dehydrate it and put it in those jars with the rubber gaskets.
Oh, you're saying that can with it?
Well, they use the old jars with the gasket on there. That's where they put their spices in. Because it's dehydrated, and that the rubber gasket keeps it moisture from getting into it. And you just toss in some of those oxygen absorbers and moisture absorbers in it too.
You grow all the herbs and some spices, tinkers. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
everybody should be doing that. A lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, and so in the the whole purpose was so people to realize that there's more of this particular life, was to point out that the Bible talks about a lot of stuff about preparedness, and that it's not just those of us that are worried today about where the world and our government's going to. Lemongrass. Oh, and ginger. Okay. Lemongrass oil extract is one of the things that I was told to use to help keep paper wasps away from the house. And so I ordered a little jar of lemongrass oil to put around the places where the paper wasps want to set up their nest, and I'll see if it works this summer. Yeah, my wife has a whole bunch of different herbs and stuff growing in the front yard in California, and that's one of the reasons why I got to get the greenhouse here built in the next year or two, and get it all functional so that when she retires in 4 years and comes and moves up here permanently, she has her garden ready to go, and we have all our herbs and stuff going. But she grows all that stuff there.
About that lemongrass. I just started hearing a lot about it too.
Yeah. My grandmother used to talk about that. Of course, then I was young and dumb and didn't listen to that. Anybody want to give me a Gibbs? For those of you who don't know what a Gibbs is, TV show NCIS, the main character is Special Agent Leroy Jethro Gibbs.
Jethro Gibbs, yep.
And every time one of his agents, starts going off, rambling off on the mouth, wake up, get back on track.
Another thing people don't think about either is that wild lettuce.
Oh, yeah. There's a scout camp over in California there on the Oakland side of the hills, just north of Oakland, called just went out of my mind here, Camp Herms. It used to be a Conservation Corps granite mine. They only mine to rock out of there for gravel and stuff. And this Boy Scout Council bought it, about 30, 40 years ago, maybe 50 years ago. Anyways, there are trails going up around it and everything. And one of the fathers of one of my scouts is a botanist. And we're up there going along, and he goes, oh, you got miner's grass here, you got this here, this is edible, that's edible. And he's just pointing out all these edibles. And he gets his one spot, don't touch that, don't eat that. That's hemlock. But he's pointing all the different things out that we could and could not eat and what they were used for. And it's like, so I want him to be in my thing when the balloon goes up and it's full Tawaki. I want him to come see me.
Well, all those little like pear-shaped. I can't even think of the name of the plant now, but the leaves are like pear-shaped, and they grow all over inside your yard. People get mad because they're in there, but those things are really good for you too. Yeah,
there's oxalis.
I can't think of the name of those darn things.
Yeah, oxalis is one of the ones that has like it looks like kind of like a 3-leaf clover, sort of, and a long stem about it grows up probably about like this tall or so, and usually it's a yellow flower. And then there's another one which we just always call it sour grass. I'm not sure the actual name for it. It's a cousin of it, but it actually has little bulbs on the bottom of it, and it has a purple flower on it. And we used to break the stems off and just chew and suck on that all day long when I was a kid. Okay. So, didn't we all grow up young, dumb, and anybody here who did not grow up young, dumb, and regret it? If you did not, put a 1 in the chat. If you did grow up young, dumb, and regret it, put a 2 in the chat.
A 1 or a 2?
Yeah, 1 if you didn't grow up young and dumb, 2 if you did.
Well, that was easy for me.
Yeah. There was so much stuff that I did not realize that my parents were trying to teach me, especially my grandparents and my grandmother's sister and uncle and all my granduncles and stuff that were trying to teach me. Yeah, some of it was kind of cool, but I just did not get it until like I was 15 or 16. Then I started realizing, oh, crud. And by then, I'd lost some of them. They were, no longer around.
Ogre Dad said 3. So he must have been adding more than 2 together.
Ah. Three, no regret. No regrets.
That's how we all pretty much grew up, Ogre Man, in the old days. We all did those dumb things and didn't even think about it. Don't regret it then, don't regret it now.
Hey, guys, don't forget to pound the like button for me. Thank you. Yeah. So let me think here for a second. I'm having a brain fart, senior moment. Don't let the dark hair fool you. Pay attention to the lack of hair. That my brain's gone.
You've got one hair up there. Don't lie to him.
No, I don't.
Get it up close to that incandescent light bulb, you get some tan on it.
Yeah, this is an LED light bulb behind me. That's something I never really grew up learning how to do, was meat rabbits. Yeah, we had chickens and we processed chickens. We had pigs and we processed some pigs when I was real young. And then when I was my late teens and into my early 20s, we had a neighbor that had pigs, and my dad took me up there and helped him process a bunch of his pigs.
All right, Modern, stack some for me.
All right, yeah. Don't exert yourself too much there, Modern. Well, actually, Jay, let me throw that up there. I had a friend of mine tell me that when I was young and I had lots of hair, he said, yeah, well, when you get married, you'll start going bald because that's the little playground. Grass doesn't grow on the playground. Your wife's always missing your head. You're going to go bald.
Now you start bumping your head off the headboard, it starts falling out.
Yeah. So, I really was hoping to get some more feedback from side chat here about things that the scriptures talk about, reasons to prepare. And we talked about a few of them. I didn't want to be the only one coming up with all the answers here. I like to do this stuff where, I'll provide you guys with some of the answer, but I like to see everyone else think, exercise your mind, and because you'll probably come up with an idea that I haven't.
I don't know that much about the Bible anymore. I probably forgot more than I'll ever know.
Well, time to get it out. Oh, for your preps, yeah, they have the small Bibles that you can put in your backpack or your go bag. You might want to put one in there, guys.
Yeah, those pages burn pretty fast.
Yeah. Now it's not. Yeah, Denozo was the one that always gets the Gibbs the most. But don't forget, he actually Gibbs Abby once. He did McGee several times. He even did the first female that was on the team, Kate. Yeah. So Kate got it a couple times, and he was really brave. He even did Ziva a couple times. If you don't know who we're talking about, go check out NCIS. It is my favorite TV show.
There's some pretty serious stuff in there, I guess, if you want to take it serious enough.
Yeah. But there's a lot of good information in there. if you look for it, the signs of the times and stuff, you look around. I wish Dave from Southern Ohio Prepping was here. He's
Myrrh's a good thing to stay away.
What was that?
Myrrh.
Myrrh. Oh yeah, myrrh is something people don't know much about. It was a frankincense was a very it was one of those herb things too that was very, very rare and expensive. Let me see if I can look that up here real quick.
I'm getting mine open too.
Frank. And myrrh, Myrrh. Okay. What are frankincense and myrrh? Let's find out. Myrrh is a reddish resin that comes from spices of the genus Camphora, which is native to Northeast Africa and the adjacent Arabian Peninsula. Camphora myrrha, a tree commonly used in the production of myrrh, can be found in shallow, rocky soil, Ethiopia, Kenya, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Somalia. It boasts spiny. He doesn't say what it's for, but yeah, that's where it comes from.
Mostly in the Asian area.
Okay, so let me go back and find out what is myrrh used for. What? Google's great, people. Something comes up, look for it. What is myrrh? What is it used for? Myrrh is applied directly to the mouth for soreness and swelling, inflamed gums, loose teeth, canker sores, bad breath, chapped lips. It's also used topically for hemorrhoids, bed sores, wounds, abrasion, boils, in foods and beverages. It is used as a flavoring component. Hey, sounds like first aid stuff. I bet
it could be used as a pain medication.
Yeah.
Eye bright, something to do with the eyes.
Yeah. Frankincense was burned in worship place to help purify the air and prevent the spread of contagious diseases, including those caused by bacteria.
Anti-inflammatory.
Yeah. So, guys, it looks like we found something else in the Bible to add to your preps. I'm gonna have to hopefully Dave. I have to let Dave know about that, or find out. He probably has, in his medical stuff, a bunch of frankincense and myrrh.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor by far, Tinker's wife.
Yeah, so
I'm just telling you what I can read, what they can find out as easily as I can.
This is YouTube. We're just listening to what YouTube says. Do your own research. Check it out yourself. And I'm not telling you to use it anyways, but it sounds like it's something that you can use if you know a little bit about it and have done your research on your own and take all your own responsibility. Is that a good disclaimer?
I guess. I just tell them I'm not a doctor.
Yeah. All right, what we got here?
Can be used as an oil.
Yep. But there's if you look in the Bible and you look for things of the times that they used and they talk about and they use as a parable or a reference to something else, you'll find out there's a lot of interesting stuff that they used to use and worked really good as medicine, but we don't use today because, and this is my soapbox, I'm getting on my soapbox. This is me personally. Don't take this as scripture. No pun intended.
If frankincense says it
That
can be an aromatic gum resin obtained from an African tree and can also be burned as an incense.
Yeah, but for doctors today, the general medical profession today seems to be more of one of treat the symptoms, not the disease. Give them pills, make them happy, send them home. Whereas some of the other, quote, non-traditional medicines, which used to be the traditional medicines, takes care of the problem, the cause, not just the symptom. Yeah, it's probably a good point. So, yeah, because when I hurt my back after an accident, my sister said, "I'll go to this doctor here. He's a good sports therapy doctor. He treats injuries all the time." He set me up with a physical therapist. The first time there, that physical therapist, under the doctor's instructions, actually made my back worse. My sister outlaw, my brother's wife's sister, recommended a chiropractor. I went to him. It turns out he not only had his doctors of chiropractic, he also had a doctorate of orthopedics. He fixed me up really quick. And anything he prescribed was non-prescription. It was herbal medicine. And he knew his stuff, and it worked. And, the other doctors saw me later and goes, "How are you walking? You should be really bad." Hey, I went to a real doctor that knew what to do.
Yeah, my chiropractor had an acupuncture doctor that worked right in his clinic with him, and he would poke me with pins and stuff. By the time I walked out of there, I was feeling pretty good. Yeah. He'd crack me, and then the other guy would punch me with these old pins, and I'd sit in a chair for about an hour with these pins stuck in me. And then when I got out of there, I felt pretty darn good. Yeah. I did that about once a week.
Yeah, this is a good joke.
That's right, Tinker's wife. Medicine is, that's why they call them practical doctors or
practice. It's a medical practice.
Medical practice. There we go. Yeah. Because they're just practicing to be medicinal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can charge those big bucks.
Now, I'm going to talk something else here about it along this lines. Leeches. They actually have medical leeches that they're starting to use again today because they realize, hey, there was something to this practice. They knew what they were talking about back in the day.
Leeching, they do that all the time.
Yeah.
But you have to have a license to do it.
Yeah. So, another lost art out there. Midwife. Yeah. Unfortunately, being trained to become a midwife is like being trained to become a nurse. Takes a long time, and and a lot of teaching.
There's a lot of people that do it without being licensed to do it.
Yeah.
They just don't brag about it.
Yeah. In the several wilderness survival classes I've gone to, They talk about if you're out there and you've been injured and it's going to take, and it's taking a long time to get back to civilization, and you're starting to get rotting flesh wounds. Yeah, get some maggots, let the maggots on there. They'll eat the rotting flesh and keeps you from getting gangrene. Now, that is not doctor's advice. Go to a course, get certified in the course, and don't take my word for it. Just, yeah, don't take my word for it. Test my word out. Check it. Do your own investigation.
Do your own investigation into it. That's what they make Google for.
Yep. Yeah, that way you can sue Google. They got the big pockets. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard about this, especially down there in Beverly Hills. They have leeches, specially grown and stuff for use down there. All sanitized and everything. All right.
Leeches are used for plastic surgery. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, when they're working on, they get to suck the blood out and get the blood flowing as they do the sewing up and everything out and move stuff around. Yeah. Let's see here. I want to pull this one here up. See if I can pull some more up there. I prepared to play. Prepared the ark. All right. Open a new tab. And where's the other one? All right, going back to some scripture here. Let thy food be prepared with single-mindedness of heart, that you may be prepared for all things to come. And open this one here. I won't read the full on that one there. This one here says, organize yourselves, prepare every needful thing, establish a house, even a house of prayer, a house of fasting, a house of faith, a house of learning, a house of glory, and a house of order, a house of God. And the other scripture here, I tell you things because of your prayers. Wherefore, treasure up wisdom in your bosom, lest the wickedness of men reveal these things unto you by their wickedness. In a manner you shall speak in your ears with the voice louder that shaketh all the earth. But if you are prepared, you shall not fear. A couple more scriptures there. Talking about preparedness.
Everything happening right now, we should be starting to prepare. If you're not prepared, you should start getting prepared.
Yeah. A friend of mine, can't remember his name now. It was back years ago. I can see his face and everything. He was one of the mechanics at Mountain Cascade. Name began with a K. Crotchety old guy. He was a Vietnam veteran, and he said he'd be over there in the rice paddies and stuff, and he'd see these women, working the rice paddy, stop, give birth, bundle the baby up, put him in the sling, and go back to working in the rice paddy.
Yep, that's over in Vietnam. I've seen that happen in Vietnam when I was over there.
Oh, all right.
They are their own midwives.
Yeah. So,
when I don't know how long all you folks have been prepping or homesteading or whatever you're doing, but every time you prepare to do your videos or whatever you're doing, your live streams, if you're anything like me, you take down notes and stuff, and so that you can always refer back to them.
Yeah, I had a bunch of
notes. You make sure that what I do is I put a name on the front of the notebook I'm using, and when they're full, I just set them back, and that way every time they're filled up, they're setting back. Well, I've got a nice old stack of them like this, and that's you can always refer back to them because you're always trying to find a new way of showing people how to prepare or to homestead or get through this event or through that event. So if you always have it written down like I do, I write everything down that I research, then I always have something I can call back on. And I think that's a pretty good idea. I mean, I don't personally think I could remember all the stuff that I've made videos on. I mean, some of it is like touch and go, but as far as being able to just sit down and tell you word for word what I said, wouldn't be able to do that. But if I got those books out, I'd be able to get pretty close.
Okay. Here I finally found the one scripture I was looking for. All things unto me are spiritual. I gave unto him a commandment that he should be an agent unto himself. And I give unto him a commandment, but no temporal commandment I give unto him, for my commandments are spiritual. They are neither natural nor temporal, neither carnal nor sensual. So, yeah, all the commandments from God are spiritual. And if he tells you to go out and eat certain meats, it's spiritual. Remember what the vision he gave unto was it Paul with the blanket, and told him, and it had all quote unclean things in it, and he told him to eat. What's this? Yeah. Oh, very good point. Brings up something that close that. People complain sometimes about praying to God and not getting an answer to their prayers, so God must not be there. My grandmother once said something to me. Just because you didn't get a yes doesn't mean he didn't answer you. The answer sometimes is no, you do not need that.
Sometimes the answer is in the no.
Yep. So, yeah, and sometimes it's like, okay, I will answer you, but not right now. You don't need to have that answer yet. You need to grow a little bit first. And that in itself is an answer as well. Okay, where am I here? All right, we're coming up on 3 o'clock, and I'm going to wrap this up. Does anybody have anything else that we need to talk about before we close it out of here? Oh, I like that one. Sometimes he's preparing that. Other times he has the answer already. He's just preparing us to receive it.
Yeah, sometimes he wants you to figure it out, not let him tell you the answer.
Right. Just remember Moses and his tribulations in the desert, not leading the tribe of Israel, his tribulations from when he was kicked out of Egypt and was on his way to, but he didn't know it yet, was on his way to see the burning bush. All the tribulations to the desert there was for to make him stronger. Let me see if I can find something else here real quick here. Come on. Where is it here? It's not showing up. There it goes. All right. Gee. There was an interesting scripture I heard from a friend. I'm trying to get it here. Gee, if I can find where he told me it was at. Last little one here for us.
Hard Deck Farms. Hello, how you doing?
It's not showing there. Let me try something else here real quick here, folks. Here we go. See if I can pull it up here. Trying to find it right. Okay. All right. I'm having problems here with my computer. It's going slow.
I was having a problem with my cameras last night for my show. I couldn't get them to work right. I think it's the switch I bought for them.
Okay. I'm going to end this with a long scripture here, folks. So I'm going to read this here to you. Let me bring it over here so it's a little more in front here so I can see it here. Okay. The ends of the earth shall inquire after thy name. Fools shall have thee in dispersion, and hell shall rage against thee. While the pure in heart and the wise and the noble and the virtuous seek counsel and authority and blessings from under thy hand, thy people shall never turn against thee by the testimony of traitors. And though their influence shall cast thee into trouble and into bars and walls, and that thou shalt be had in honor, but for a small moment. Thy voice shall be more terrible in the midst of thy enemies than a fierce lion. If thou art called to pass through tribulation, if thou art in perils among false brethren, if thou art in perils among robbers, if thou art in perils by land or by sea, if thou art accused with all manner of false accusations, if thine enemies fall upon thee, if they tear thee from the society of thy father and thy mother and brethren and sisters, and if they have a drawn sword, thine enemies tear from thy bosom of thy wife and thine offspring and thy elder son, although but 60 days shall cling unto thy garments and shall say, my father, why can't you stay with us, O my father? What are the men going to do with you? If thou shalt be cast into the pit or into the hands of murderers, and the sentence of death shall be passed upon thee, if thou art cast into the deep and the billows of surge conspire against thee, if fierce winds become thine enemy, if the heavens gather blackness and all elements combine to hedge up the way, and above all, if the very jaws of hell shall gape open the mouth wide after thee, know thou, my son, that all these things shall give thee experience and shall be for thy good. The Son of Man hath descended below them all. Art thou greater than he? All right. Are any of us greater than Christ?
Not me.
All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and end this and say, may the Lord's blessings be upon all of you, and enjoy the rest of this Sabbath day.
Same to you, my brother.